So all of these questions have been submitted by students via the internet. The first question tonight is, finding a station in the CEC can be difficult or impossible as of recent. It seems that all of the CSE lab-based learning seems to steal all the spaces away from other groups of students. Is there a way to schedule courses into those labs in such a way as to leave adequate space for the number of students who use the space in the CEC?
So we have about a little over 300 PCs in our CEC, and that includes some of the labs that have been formerly part of the departments, but the departments have allowed to be incorporated into the CEC. The statistics that we run to show lab usage, and I actually have a report here, and we don't publish this, but it does give me some real live data in terms of how many seats are actually being used at any time during the month, show that we're using about, at our peak, about 202 seats of the 311 that we have. So that tells me that we actually do have adequate PCs for people, but we probably are not doing a good enough job in advertising some of the locations where they exist that you might not be aware of. So when we saw this question, we started today to publicize some of the other lab locations that are around that you might be able to go to and find some space. These include Erbauer 218, Erbauer 116, Erbauer 115, and Whitaker 130. Some of these may not be on your radar screen, or they might have been formerly departmental labs, but the departments have graciously opened them up for us to use whenever classes aren't scheduled there. So please consider those spaces, and I think hopefully when you do, you'll find that there really are enough spaces for everyone to get a PC when they need to.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else on our panel have a comment on? All right, then we will open it up to further questions, clarifications, anything on this topic? Here, we'll start here.
Is the list of locations published somewhere online?
It hasn't been, but on the basis of this question and your concern, we're going to do a much better job. We're going to put it on a website, and actually in the main CEC area, Seaver 2, we're going to put some signage up that will list these other rooms. So we see that as a shortcoming and apologize for that, but hopefully over the next few days you'll see much better awareness posted about where these rooms are. Check them out. I think you may find that some of them are actually very nice, and they're all to the CEC standards, so you're going to get the same experience in all these labs that you'll get in the Seaver labs.
All right, very good. Other questions? No?
I guess one of the concerns may be that this, I hadn't even crossed my mind beforehand, so this wasn't something that I cared too strongly about, but a lot of students use the CEC, especially in the Seaver Hall, as a means of working together, interacting with each other, and so it may just probably be more of a location thing. Would it be possible, do you think, that maybe some of the classes were moved to the auxiliary locations, that could remain sort of as it functions as a medium for students to communicate and collaborate together. And so if you're spread out at these other locations, then sometimes you can't find students who you're looking for otherwise, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, there is a social dimension to using these labs. Oftentimes you want to get together with your study group or with your friends and work together on projects or just hang out. I mean, we do realize there's a greater dimension than just having PC access that what these rooms provide. We are looking at ways to recreate that type of sense of community in space that is hopefully close enough to where these labs are that some of that can be maintained. It may not be exactly in a lab setting, but where collaboration and community could be fostered with the access to the networks, and a lot of students do have laptops, as you can see right here, where maybe if you brought your own laptop and we provided ways for you to get to the same applications that you need to get to, that we can expand our space. Those are on the drawing board for future projects, but we do understand that dimension that the role of the labs have, and we want to recreate and maintain that as we locate the space and relocate the space as the construction and ongoing renovation of the school takes place.
Thank you.
I guess one comment is there are sometimes, you know, like you're the CEC or the receiver, and really you're just passing through, you have a class, and your only purpose is maybe to check email or print something off. And if you have a class in there, or it's very full, it's during peak times, it can be very difficult to do that. And would be a possibility maybe just to add like just a few more stations where all they have is maybe internet and printing capability? Because I know that a lot of people just kind of run in and do something really quick.
I saw that question, and I'm going to take a walk down to the business school and see what they have. And we do have one, what I would call quick print, quick email station that's mounted on the wall by the help desk area. Is that what you're referring to? Places like that?
Yeah.
Okay. We can look at finding more capability like that. I know there's one in the entrance to La Plata, and we can put another station there. Finding places in the hallways, you know, we want to maintain aesthetics and everything else, and I got this guy that's going to make sure I do it right. So, but I understand what you're saying, and hopefully we can keep that in mind and create more of those kinds of kiosk types of workstations where you can just walk up, print something off, or check your email. And I'll take a look at what the business school has to see if we can learn something from them. At the moment, though, we have no immediate plans to offer that, but seeing that that's a concern, we'll see what we can do to add that in.
All right, thank you very much. Seeing no further questions, we move on to our next pre-submitted question. During the winter, the noise in the CEC can be unbearable because of those awful clanking sounds from the heating system. It becomes very hard to do any work because the noise is distracting. Is there any way to mitigate the noise in order to allow students to be more productive in the environment?
Well, I'd be interested to know when they last checked on the noise. We hear it in the dean's office as well, and facilities finally figured out what the problem was, and they've corrected it, and we haven't heard anything else on the first floor, and we can imagine nobody's heard anything else on the second floor. So
About the last 2 weeks.
yeah,
About 2 weeks ago.
yeah. So is anybody here that's still hearing the noise? I think it's corrected. Yeah.
Fantastic. Hey,
Do you hear what we hear?
hey, issues being already corrected by the time we talk about them. I would say that is a job well done. Does anyone have any further questions on this? I think it seems we've got that one covered. All right, so moving on to the final question in regards to EIT. Could we have more space in our CEC profiles? The last upgrade to 500 megabytes was in the summer of 2005.
It's always something. No, actually, we are happy to add quota to profiles. We don't do it as a general rule because if you don't need it, it just slows your startup down and it wastes space that is a valuable commodity. But anyone who needs more quota, we would have to add it. We have added it for whole classes when there's been a specific need for some application that the way it runs that needs more quota. It's never been an issue for us to add quota, but from a technical standpoint, we're a little bit loath to just as a blanket ramp everyone's quota up to say a gigabyte because the net result will be the way your system comes up, it'll be slower and there'll be a lot more disk space that'll just be idle. But if anyone's having a problem, by all means come and make the request, we'll be happy to bump your quota up. So if it's interfering with anything, we're not standing in the way of fixing it. But we want to be smart about using the resources and using them so that we don't cause anyone more grief when they don't have a need for it.